Hey folks, this is Jessica Mashkovich, and this is One Take with Jess. Today, my guest is my friend, LaToya Allen, who is Vice President and Store Manager / Branch Manager, as we used to call it in the day, of TD Bank. Thank you for being here. You and I actually started getting in. Wait, talk again. I want to make sure your audio is okay.
Yes, I can hear you fine. I was just saying thank you so much for having me.
Oh, sure. You were nervous before, but it's just you and I gabbing it up again, as we always do.
Right, right.
Um, so I remember when I was just chatting with you about student debt and just how crazy it is. And I was asking you like what the bank is doing or, what, and you started telling me your own personal story about when you came to the United States from Jamaica and like you started from scratch. You got your job, then you funded your own education. So it just sounded so inspiring and something that people need to listen to because everyone thinks that the proper path is high school, college, grad school, then job. And, you did it a slightly different way. So talk to me about a little bit about where you came from.
For sure. Thanks again for having me, Jess. It's always a pleasure and it's always good when we catch up, right?
I love it.
Um, yes. And the path that you mentioned, right? That might be ideal and that might be the path that maybe most people take. Unfortunately for me, I think that's the path I had in my mind, right? But it wasn't the path that worked out. And so for me, when I migrated here from Jamaica about 17 years ago, I had actually started my first year in college. And because I migrated here, I didn't get a chance to complete. So when I came here, I said, oh my gosh, now I need to go back to school, right? I looked at my dad and he looked at me. And, though he was like, you have to go to school, I said, well, what I want to do is I do want to work part time. And I was fortunate to work for a company who funded education. Education is key for my company. So, kudos there. But I worked part time and I funded my way through school.
Yeah,
And
a lot
yes,
of
it's
people don't know that they could get a job that the company will still pay for part of the tuition, if it's in line with, especially if the job is hoping to retain you as an employee. I know that they were doing it back in your day and my day when you work for large companies. Even at an entry level position, there's still opportunity to have your education funded by that company. So
company, absolutely. And a lot of people don't know, right, if they don't truly review the benefits that the company offers. So it's definitely something to talk to your manager about, find out if the company that you work for offer any kind of tuition reimbursement. My company did, and so I worked actually full time. I was hoping to work part time, but I loved it so much that I worked full time and went to school part time. Like I said, it took longer, but it was definitely worth it. And when I graduated, I was not left with enormous student loan because I took courses that I could afford at the time. And then also my company reimbursed courses that I took, that could be beneficial to the company. So definitely something to look into if your company does offer that, because it's great
did
for
you know
many
what you
people.
wanted to be?
When I first started, I wanted to be a teacher.
I could see
But
that. I could totally see that.
being in bank, I grew to love it so much. I excelled at my career, and so here I am 17 years later.
Yeah, that's great. And we're happy that you took this direction. So, but you didn't start out in corporate as, like some mid-level manager. You started at entry level. Yes?
Yeah,
I
yes,
think
I
a lot
started.
of people they need to be humble, start in a company that you may want to work for in the future. But yeah, so you started at entry level.
Entry level. I started as a part-time teller and worked myself up to store manager, vice president.
Yeah. And that was, how many years did that take of progression? Did you have any people that took you under their wing? Or do you like recall any particular mentors that really kind of helped you along the way or taught you the ropes?
Absolutely, several mentors, and if I started naming names, I don't want to forget anyone, right? But just looking, like, really. So looking back, I can just think of every position that I've held. I've pretty much held every position that there is in the retail store. So from a teller to a customer service rep to the weekend supervisor, to the store full supervisor to assistant manager. And in every role, I had mentors, some of which were my peers that, I could just run certain things by. Some were my direct manager that guided me along the way, provided constructive feedback, because sometimes the feedback, it might not be what you want to hear, right? But some of those mentors have taught me how to really look at yourself and think about what you can do differently. And though sometimes it was tough conversations, I always find the good, in that conversation, and to find what can I do differently and how can I learn from maybe this mistake. And so I've had a lot of people who, pushed me along the way, and they still continue, to push me because, as I think of where I am, I also think about where I want to be. Right. So I'm not there yet.
That's good. Where do you want to be? Do you want to speak it out loud, or is it just between you and the
Oh,
what? What did you say?
CEO, right? Of the bank. Uh,
Oh,
but of course, that's going to take some time to get there. So they're different. One of my short-term goal is to be a regional manager,
mhm.
where I oversee a certain district. So instead of just managing one particular store, I would kind of manage an entire region. That's my goal. It gives me the ability to continue to inspire people, to drive performance, just to help customers to give back to the community. So definitely somewhere that I see myself.
If I recall the corporate hierarchy, especially in the banking industry, you and I are both from the banking industry. I used to work for JP Morgan Chase a long time ago, but on the corporate side, not the retail side. So I wasn't really customer facing as much. But as you progress from a customer facing role, as you climb the ladder, you start to interface less with customers and more with the people who you manage. And then as you get higher and higher and higher, you deal less with the managerial issues and more with the policy and political issues, as you get higher up the top. Have you noticed a similar transition? Do you like working as a manager better under, managing people or interfacing with customers? Because I like perk up when I see you. First of all, you're like the best dressed person I've ever seen in my life. So you're just I think we have
You
a
too,
little delay.
us together, right? I too. You always look amazing. And when I first met you, I'm like, wow, she just looks amazing.
That's crazy because I am like in leggings and a sweatshirt, a hooded sweatshirt often. So I'm glad I could pull that off.
Sweatshirt. I don't say you were wearing a sweatshirt. I think you were all dressed up.
Great. You caught me on a good day. But you are an asset to the customer facing side of things. And I can only imagine that you are just an excellent manager and, will definitely achieve whatever you're looking to do. You're a very methodical and focused person who wears a smile on their face, and it would be happy to bring you into their group as,
Mhm. Yes, and I would definitely agree, not to like woohoo, but to say, great feedback. Thank you, because that's definitely, I'm happy that you noticed that, because it's definitely something that I strive to do daily. When it comes to the customer experience, that's my top focus. I tell my team that, if the customer trumps it all. And I think as I move up, because even earlier in my career, I interacted a lot more with customers. But as as my role changed and as I take on more, responsibilities, not that I interact less with customers, but I found that I can't do it all. Right? I go crazy if I try to, help all the customers by myself. And so, what I do, I delegate to my team, I warm transfer, I have great people that work with me. And so if a customer needs anything, I kind of transition that customer over to the team. I introduce my team members to customers to let them know that, you are in great hands, because I don't ever want to cause a customer any delay. And if I were to just take on everything and do it by myself, then by the time I'm done with this one and it gets done, I just can't do it alone. So, and I'm sure you've noticed too, I've partnered with a lot of people. I've introduced you to my partners. Because it's just, I can't do it alone. It's definitely one thing that I've learned in my career. And so, I still check in with my customers, whether it be the holidays, if I don't see them all the time when they come in, if it's the birthdays, or I do have some customers that, I'll reach out on their cell just to say, hey, how are things going?
Right. And that's a skill, because I've also noticed that people aren't taught to be a manager. You're either, which is probably something that corporations and companies should look into, is, as you progress people through the hierarchy, you really have to teach them how to be a manager, because a lot of times you're in charge of your own destiny. You're a control freak, not you, but me. When you're trying to get ahead, you really want to feel like you're controlling your own destiny and the things around you. It's very the opposite of what a good manager is, because you do have to let go. You do have to trust others. How did you learn how to let go? Did you have like siblings, brothers, sisters, that you were able to delegate responsibilities to in your past?
Actually, this was a great question, because this was something that, again, I learned through my mentor, right? This is one thing she told me, that you can't do everything on your own. And when you delegate, and this has always followed me, you have to inspect what you expect. So
Can you say that again?
you have to inspect what you expect. So you're inspecting what you're expecting.
Okay.
So gave you a task to do, right? Um, I have to inspect. So when you're done, I have to say, okay, let's sit down. Let's see what you did. Was it done properly? Check, check. So that really helped me, because even though I was delegating, I still had to coach. I still had to follow up. I still had to make sure, whether or not that person had any questions, do they understand the ask? And so that's the part of like inspecting the results, just to make sure it was done properly. So that really helps me. It also helps to empower your team, because they want to help you, right? And when they see that you trust them to say, hey, can you help me with this? And then inspect it once it's done, and then give some kudos. Hey, you did a phenomenal job with that. Thank you so much. It really, it just motivates them, and it empowers them, and they just really want to go above and beyond for you.
How do you deal with someone that's just not getting it, that you put on task and they're not coming through, and you've taught them, you've inspected and corrected, and it's just, is that an opportunity for you to take them under your wing, or is that someone that you just want to set free?
So a couple of things that I use, right? It's my philosophy. You have to observe whether it's a skill issue or a will issue. And I always assume that I'm 50% of the problem, right? So what have I done? Did I develop that person properly? Did I communicate the ask properly? Did I give clear expectations? Did I set, clear guidelines? So I always think of what didn't I do? And then I look, is it a will or a skill issue? If it's a skill issue and that person, just really wants to understand better what needs to be done, then I can guide that person. However, if it's a will where that person is just not willing to do it because, I don't want to do it, then it's definitely a coaching opportunity. And sometimes you have to coach up, or you're coaching out. And, it's a part of leadership. It's probably not the most favorite thing to do, to coach out. But sometimes it's inevitable and you have to coach out. So I always look at, what could I have done to really set clear expectations? How can I help? Is it really just a skill issue where that person just really doesn't understand what needs to be done, and it is my role to really help and guide? Or is it a will where I have to say, okay, well, let me coach you up, and you can either look at yourself and say, you know what, I can do this, or you just don't want to do it and I have to coach you out.
Mm. I kind of know what coaching out means, but what is coaching up?
Coaching up. So up is really where you're providing the person with the tools, right? To really help them understand what needs to be done. You're following up, you're setting guidelines, you're sharing best practices, you're partnering that person with a mentor or a buddy that can help. So coaching up is when you're really, leveraging tools to mentor that person to really develop a skill to really get them up, to get them to where you need them to be.
That's good. And how many people have you successfully coached, and do you see them off in different directions, having, successful careers for themselves after being, under you or with you?
Several, over the years, I have developed many team members, and, some are still with my company, some have moved on, and we remained, great friends, and they still reach out and they're like, you have been so influential and, just in my career and, in my development. So many team members that I have developed. I actually find pleasure in coaching up rather than coaching out, because again, I think it's just leadership that and especially for me, I always reflect, did I drop the ball, right? What could I have done differently? So it's always a reflection phase when you have to coach out, and so I prefer to coach up. But throughout my career, I've definitely had, situations where I had to coach out, and I'm happy that, I coached out because, reflecting, I feel like I truly did everything I could.
Hmm. Do you stay in touch with those people?
That I coached up or out?
Out.
Out now.
No, that's fine. They're off to better pastures, whatever that is.
When it's the out, it usually doesn't end well. So,
Yeah, they're probably not happy with you.
you kind of leave it there.
Okay.
And you hope that, though it didn't end well, maybe they'll find some good in what you were trying to do
Hmm.
and really get along with them, on their life's journey.
Do you use a similar technique for parenting? Because I know you're a parent. Do you
Mhm.
apply some of your company techniques to raising your child?
I do, but I feel like I'm more tough on my child, and he'll say it. He like sometimes he says, "Oh, but when you're talking to your employees, you say okay." Or so, so I do, and I try to instill, like just I try to develop him as a leader, and and sometimes he'll say, "Mom, I'm only 13." And I said, "I know, but I'm starting young, right? I want you to learn these things." And I try to teach him being responsible, and sometimes I'm home and I'll get phone calls from my team members, and I say, "See, this is how you would do this." And I said, "You see, look at this, that's being responsible." So I try to show him, right, the even though we're home, I try to develop him for when he does go out there in the world.
Yes. And now that he is 13, he'll be getting his working papers soon. Are you encouraging him in the same way to go out and get a job, take on responsibility? Because you came from an entirely different background, different environment. Like you up yourself from Jamaica to the United States, and that itself was a huge change, and you were young. So these kids don't necessarily have to deal with that type of disruption or
Yeah.
challenge.
And you know what? I try, but if I'm being honest with you and transparent, it's a battle. I think it's because, they see it on TV, they hear it in school. I think it's a part of the culture here that, you you go to school and mom and dad and you don't have to work. It's on the social media. So I think it's what they see,
Mhm.
right? I'm being honest. I think, though I try to show him, it's a struggle because he sees what he sees, and then here I am trying to show him a different way. So I have to constantly show him that different way.
Yeah. That is important. And I don't know if showing him versus him experiencing it. Well, I don't know what's going on in these kids' heads. You don't want them to feel entitled. My kids too, they grew up in a different world than I grew up in. I wasn't handed all this opportunity. Then again, I wasn't denied. We weren't poor. We were middle class and my college was paid for, but I was told you're going to go to a state college, a New York State college, because we lived in New York. And I wasn't able to go to like Syracuse because it was a private school or anything like that. So I worked within my parameters, that I was given. Kids now will go to school, and this is how you and I started in that conversation. They'll go to a college, their parents will put them in just for whether it's rah-rah prestige or, just to say my kid goes to so and so, and then turn around and either the family or the kid is in debt for, $100,000, $200,000. Actually, the average is $30,000, but that's still a chunk to pay back in the
Yeah.
future. For what purpose? I think people are living beyond their means in many ways.
I agree. And and sometimes too, when you go to those Ivy League schools and you've never worked before, and so here you are, fresh out of college and you have no work experience. What is going to be your starting salary, right? And having to repay all those student loans. So like you said, really just live within your means, and it's what you make of it. When I migrated here, I went back to Brookdale Community College, and from Brookdale, I went to NJCU. I graduated cum laude, and here I am. I probably wasn't an Ivy League school, but I took the experience and I made the most of it, and I'm proud. I'm proud of everything that I've accomplished.
Absolutely. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. You made the most of it. So it doesn't matter if you come from an Ivy League or well, maybe an Ivy League, a good school versus a community college. It's really what you make the most out of the opportunities that are given and the people around you. Like when I was in corporate, I used to absorb as much information. I was a sponge to whomever I thought was speaking intelligently and motivationally, and just something that I could learn from. I would try and meet with them. I would ask them to lunch. I mean, I was like an assistant or an associate vice president, whatever it was. And they would be a senior vice president. And I would ask for 15 minutes just to have a conversation to learn about how they progressed to where they are or what interested them in this industry. Just for no other reason, maybe then they would know my name. They may consider me for an opportunity. You know, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but this is really for other people to know. Not everyone is articulate. Not everyone can hold a conversation. But when you actually make an effort to have a conversation with someone who is above you or someone who maybe you want to work for them in the future, you're showing them that you're capable of having the conversation, and you're a forward thinker and you have motivation, chutzpah, whatever it is, to get yourself ahead. And they like that. They applaud that.
I agree. Definitely agree. And, you can't be afraid to, you know, not take the road that is being taken by everyone. Take the road less taken, and step outside of your comfort zone, and Because I think that a lot of the things that you will need in life, and the values that education is great, but I think a lot of it has to do with like who you are and your morals, and your attitude towards life, and towards anything that you're doing in life. I think those go a long way. And so, though a great education is key, but it's those characteristics will be critical.
Yeah. Most of the stuff you learn is on the job, unless you're a doctor and you need medical school, or certainly different industries require an in-depth, batch of knowledge behind you. So the education certainly can't be, looked over, but a lot of what you learn is from job experience.
And even even though doctors learn things that they have to learn in school, right? But when you think of who do you want to be your doctor, right? You find comfort in someone who's caring, someone who follows up, someone who checks on you, someone who shows empathy and sympathy. So those are the little things that are still important, because though you got the education and you got the experience, you might not be successful, especially if you have your own practice. Because again, will people want to do business with you? Will you have the skills to make your clients feel valued and show empathy where it's needed? Or you're just going to be that, by the book, okay, you're check, 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 or you're going to really be that people person.
Right, right. What was an interesting statistic when it comes to paying for college? I spoke with someone from Penn State about on-campus jobs. I think before COVID, of course, when people were still on campus and working, and there was food service and all that stuff. I was exploring opportunities for my son to get a job when he was a freshman, because I wanted him to have responsibility, not only for schoolwork, but also, separately. And I don't know if it was an article or the person I was speaking with, it turns out that they have a hard time getting kids to work on campus, because the school loans, all of the loans that are coming in, have fully funded these kids' education. So the money that they're going to owe in the future has paid up their tuition, that there's really no desire and no need for these kids to, subsidize their income or help pay their tuition with on-campus employment. And this is like so different than what it used to be a few decades ago, when there really wasn't that many school loans to be attained, or it wasn't, coming in hand over fist like it is now. And there was a lot more competition for on-campus jobs. Now they're just finding it hard to even hire people, because kids have no desire to work. It's all being paid for.
My advice would be to work, right? Even if it's part-time, even if it's a few hours, even if you're volunteering, do something, because it truly prepares you for the real world. Because if not, when your first day in the real world is going to be like a total shock. So just looking back, I would strongly recommend, and I would, advise anyone to truly work if you can. I know that it's a lot to balance school and work. But like I said, even if it's part-time, even if it's a couple of hours, because it truly prepares you for what to come.
I agree. Were there any people, we talked about mentors. Was there anyone that you felt was holding you back, or just not as happy to see you move ahead? And you don't have to name names. I just want to know how you may have overcome that, because a lot of times there is competitive nature in corporate or in any company.
Yeah. You know what? Earlier in my career, when, I think sometimes in the job, you think that, you within yourself feel like you're ready, I deserve this, that next role should be mine. Like, you have all kinds of things that go through your head, right? And so earlier in my career, I thought so. But I can truly look back and say, no, because now I'm grateful that, maybe opportunities that I didn't get, right? Now I'm grateful that I didn't get it, because looking back, I said, wow, if I was in that role at that time, I probably wouldn't have known how to handle that. I probably wouldn't have known how to balance, those challenges. And so looking back, I'm kind of grateful that, positions that maybe I wanted that I didn't get, or I thought someone was holding me back for, it was truly because I wasn't ready. And now I look back and I'm grateful, and I can do some self-reflection and say, wow, I truly wasn't ready. And I'm happy that I didn't get that position, or I'm happy that that person said, no, you weren't the right person at the time.
And that's
So not
that's a good answer for looking at the positive side of it. But looking at the other side of it, not everyone is going to be your cheerleader. Not everyone is going to, put their hand out to lift you up. So how might you have overcome that? Because I know in my experience, there were a couple of people that were holding me back. And that's because they were very comfortable in their role and they didn't want to retrain someone else. They wanted me there and I was working for them. And it was a nice, cozy situation. And then, but my direction was, if you're not going to help in this, then I'm just going to kind of go around and maybe veer off in a different direction.
and you're completely right, because not everyone's going to be your cheerleader, right? And in my career I've had people who are definitely not my cheerleader, but I stay professional, right? I think staying professional is key. Continue to do what you do, because I think that your work is going to shine through and people will see your results, and no one can stop that, no one can dim that light. So those have always kept me going. And then I'm a firm believer in what's yours will be yours, and no one can take that away. I think it's my faith, right? No one can take that away. So though it's tough, because we're humans, and you kind of have that feeling that right, but just to keep it going, to stay professional, keep doing what you do, and just know that what's yours will be for you. So
What does that mean?
that as with that.
What does that mean? What's yours will be for you, or what's yours is yours?
Yes, I think everyone has their destiny. I'm like I said, my faith. I am very God fearing, and I think He's the ultimate being, and whatever path He has made out for you, whatever path God has made out for you, no one can take that away. So if He says, you know what, Jess, you're going to be CEO of XYZ, right? That will be yours.
I think that that's a very strong inner monologue that you definitely have with yourself. And if God is leading that way for you, that's great. I personally, seeing from here, I think you're leading that way for you, and just keep going, because whatever it is, I'm by your side. He's by your side. Whoever needs to be under your wings for that, for that lift, that's I'm all for it. Whatever keeps people focused and deserving. It's almost like an entitled kind of sentiment, because you're thinking, well, this is my path. I'm going to get what's mine, which sounds entitled, but that's the motivation. And that is what a lot of people lack, is that focus and that determination and that path.
Yeah, and that's great. Sometimes I also believe in every setback is a setup for a comeback, right? So
You have to make t-shirts out of all these things.
right, every setback is a setup for a comeback. So that might have been a setback for you, but what you truly didn't realize, that it's really setting you up for the better that's to come. And so, like you said, just stay focused, stay determined, don't ever lose sight of your goals. Not everyone's going to believe in your dreams and your aspirations, but you should stay focused. And that has always guided me. I stay focused on my dreams. I know I can accomplish anything that I put in the work for, and I just stay determined.
Yep. How did being a mother, and I mean, you and I are women, right? Yes.
Yeah.
How did becoming a mother, or being a woman, actually being a woman is a separate conversation, but how did becoming a mother maybe shift your career aspirations, or, and then we'll talk about the pandemic and see if that, being a woman, or, being the mom, has affected, again, anything related to your day-to-day career and your, your goals? Did anything take a back seat? Did it shift? We'll talk about when you first became a mother.
No. So, obviously when my son was a newborn, it was challenging. A lot of, I was very involved in the community. I love to be the first to volunteer for whatever is going on. And of course, when you have a little one that you have to maybe get from the daycare, or you might not have a nanny to watch, that changes things. But I have a very supportive husband. I love him dearly, and he was just, he has been a huge support system. We really work together. So he also pushes me. Like, he knows I'm passionate about what I do, so he pushes me and he supports in any way he can. So if I have meetings, if there's something that I have to do for work, he's like, "Don't worry, I'll take my son to soccer now. He's older, so he plays soccer." But just very supportive. And I think if you have that partner who supports you, it makes it a lot easier, and you never have to put your career on hold. um, I'm very big on, family first, and most of, like, pretty much all my leaders, at my company will tell you that work-life balance is key and your family comes first. And so I think I do pretty good with balancing that. I do make time for my family. I keep my commitments. So if we have something that I committed to for my son or my husband, I make sure that, I do keep that commitment, even if I have to get someone to cover for me, someone on my team to step up for me. But I try to truly balance it, because once you find that balance, then you never really have to give up either or.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you're definitely in a very, I don't want to say fortunate situation, but you have a very supportive spouse, you have a company that's willing to be flexible. And this company, they have maternity leave, they have the flexibility for you to be able to, of course, now work from home on occasions where you need to. Um, but so that's another thing that people can sort of look for, I suppose, in their future, job situation, is a company that has good values in supporting, like, family first as well.
Yeah, and I do recognize that, everyone's situation is different. So, you do have single moms, and, you do have, people out there doing it all by themselves. So I get it. I get that it's tough. It's different for everyone. So all due respect there too. But, I was just fortunate to have a supportive spouse, and work for a company, just a great company. Even during COVID, we had extra days off. We had 10 additional childcare days, because they did recognize that a lot of the kids were home.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah.
And your son was able to be home on his own with you guys being at work. So it wasn't like he was a 5-year-old, because he's 13.
Yeah,
How-
he's but during the pandemic, when COVID first started, we were working from home. The banks were closed, and so, that was great that he didn't have to be home alone. And now, we do have him back in school on the
Mhm.
hybrid schedule. And so he goes 4 days a week, and then half days. And because my company is so flexible, on days that I can scoot out early, that by the time he's home, I can be, maybe a couple of hours he's home by himself. But yeah.
How does he feel about that whole thing? I should have him on.
Oh,
How does he feel about the going back into school versus doing school from home?
he wanted to do school from home, right? He was very upset. Why do I have to go on? I have to be in a mask. I have to, but it's a decision that we needed to make. So now that, my location is open, like, we have reopened, and I just, I could see where I saw it, where it was affecting him. He was home alone every day. I was worried, like, was he truly on? I was getting emails from the teachers. Nicholas turned his camera off. Nicholas is not online. So we needed to make that decision. And we just talked to him about the importance of, staying safe, and, following the CDC, wearing your mask, staying 6 feet, washing your hands. But he's not happy.
And you know what? That goes to say, again, parents have to be parents. If you see you can't just, I want to stay home and I'm a kid. But if it's not working out 100%, you're the parent. You have to pull rank and be like, I know what's best for you and for the family. And again, another thing that I think parents nowadays are very hesitant to do, and that is parent their kid. Like, I'm glad that you took hold, and I'm sure it's for the best, for real.
I say to him, I said, listen, because the school is very flexible. You can change it where, okay, if you want to take him off of the hybrid and you want to have him do fully remote, and you can also do it week over week. You could do it for a month. You can always change, they're flexible. So I said to him, I said, well, these are my expectations and we can compromise. If you do well in this, then maybe for the month of April, you could do fully remote, right? And so I think that helps. So it's not like, no, you're going to school, but we talk through it. So, hey, what would you like to see? No, I'm the parent. That's not going to happen, but maybe here's what I can do, right?
Right. You're putting your manager hat on.
Do I need to coach or well, coach him out?
Oh, that's great. I'll take them.
I'll send him.
That's awesome. So how has the pandemic affected your store, your branch, as far as customers go or your employees? And I'm not sure what the corporate requirements are. You're probably doing whatever corporate lays down as what they're comfortable with from a policy perspective. But what are they thinking? Because you do have customers coming in and out. You have employees that are in and out. What type of testing or screening do you do at the door, if any?
Yeah. So, I think that this pandemic has changed, our lives significantly. When it comes to the employees, not only are they battling the professional changes, but they also have a lot going on personally, because I think we all have to, battle the remote learning for our kids, and most of the daycares were closed, and whether it be a situation where you live with an elderly person or someone who is easier to be compromised, it's just so much going in. It definitely affected my location, because for most of the pandemic, well, maybe not most, but several weeks, we were closed. So we had to find new ways to service our customers, to be able to still reach out to the community. So we had to make significant changes, and of course with the capacity limit. So my location, and how busy that office is.
This is
So
Central New Jersey. Yep.
Right. So one of the biggest change for us is, not being able to just have customers walk in, and we certainly have to manage the flow. Everyone's required to wear a mask, and then for employees, there's a checklist that you have to complete, and it gives you whether you're okay to go in, okay, not okay to go in. So we do have those guidelines in place. And then as far as the customers, just making sure that we adhere to the 6 feet. We're cleaning, to keep the building virus free, and then of course customers have to wear their masks.
Were customers changing over to do online banking through the apps, deposit checks through the apps? Were they seeing the value of doing things through the computer or through the phone? And then have they come back in to do it the old-fashioned way, or do you feel that a lot of people have now been transitioned over to doing what they need to do through the app?
Yeah, so the digital focus was huge, right? Because especially with the doors closed, we were operating drive-through only. The lines were just insane. So a lot of people have transitioned to our digital platforms. And of course it had, like, we had to show a lot of customers, we had to show them the way, because they weren't using the digital platform. So we had to really break it down and show them how, and show them the benefits. And
How did you do that? How did you do that?
Cool. So we had something that was called Relay, that we were able to text customers the instructions. We reached out via phone. Customers that would come in through appointments, we would kind of show them. We would do a demo as to how we would make sure that they were set up properly and kind of walk them through how to do it.
Mhm. It just came to my mind, that would have been something good to put on like the door, an LCD display, like a TV type of display right in the window that really just, teaches people how to use the app while they're standing outside. I remember standing outside of the branch and I was like, what do I have to do? And I had to like call and get an appointment time. And it was so weird. I ended up like leaving. I think I still have a check to deposit with you guys.
So we're different from, all the typical banks. Like, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is being, is banking human. And so we like to like show customers the way, right? We like to do the demo, and we don't want to say, well, here are the instructions, go figure it out, right? But we like to show you how. But that's great feedback that I'll definitely take.
Oh, cool. What were some of the flexibilities that you did have with your staff regarding working from home? Are there still people working from home? Because like you said, the differences with how COVID hit people, um, children at home, elderly parents, maybe people themselves, the employees had COVID.
We had one of the things we did was A and B teams, right? And that gave a lot of flexibility. I know that was even very helpful for me. So we took the team. I think I have a total of 14 employees at the time, and we were 15, and we split the team in half. And so, half would work because it was only drive through only. So half would work one week, half would work the other week. And we changed that, because I like to talk to my team, like, what works for you? Do you want to be off a whole week, work a week? So week on, week off. And, there were months that we did that. And then there were months that, we would say, no, can we alternate? Like, can we go in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday? And then, team B would go in Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So we did that too. And it was just a constant communication, like, what's working, what can we change, how can we help you in these difficult times? And I think, once you have that constant communication with your team, so that was very helpful. We had the flexibility to do A and B teams.
Were
And
people still getting paid their full salary at that time, even though they were working half of the week?
yes, and that was also a great thing that, the company did for us. Yes, everyone was still getting full pay.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Um, I wanted to mention financial literacy, just because you're in banking and it's always, we talked about school debt, and a lot of people just don't understand the ramifications, or maybe they do understand the ramifications between that level of debt. But, we had the stimulus checks come out. We have people that are, tapping into their retirement savings just to get by for certain times. And then you have people that were unaffected by COVID that are still fine. So financial literacy isn't only during pandemic time where you really need to know your finances and manage things accordingly for your current situation and your future, but financial literacy has been talked about for ages when it comes to teaching kids even as early as 5 years old, with the piggy bank situation and those things. Are you guys, or are you in particular, doing anything related to financial literacy to educate the community?
Yes, yes. And like you said, that's key. And just being in the industry, I see how much there is a need for financial literacy and the difference that it makes. I'm very involved, when it comes to that. I actually, prior to COVID, I worked with the YMCA, and I taught a series of financial literacy to the kids there. And it was eye-opening because you see how much it's well needed, right? And we had to really take it back to basics, where we're teaching from, like, okay, how do you balance your checkbook, how do you budget, how do you what is a savings
This was to the kids?
Yes, and we had different age groups, right? So it was fun, and they were so appreciative. But something that I'm doing, especially now that there's not much to do one of the things that I'm committed to doing and working with, a few of my peers, we're having workshops and setting them up through Zoom, and we have different topics around financial literacy. So a couple of them are, so we're doing the first time home buyer workshop. So maybe someone is looking to buy. It could be savings, right? Budgeting. How do you break the cycle of paycheck to paycheck? Those are things that we want to do. We want to, teach the community the importance of those things. And so I'm very involved when it comes to that.
That's fantastic. When you say we, how is this, like, where can people sign up for this, or when are these starting? Have they started already?
So a lot of this information is on our website, right? tdbank.com. But we're setting up. So basically I'm doing the outreach. So, if someone is interested, certainly they can, let you know. And if you have a follow-up base, they can reach out to you, and then, I can do the follow-up. But I'm reaching out to different community groups that I am involved with, churches, in the community. So I'm doing the outreach and setting these up. So it's not like, something that's out in the public. Sorry. The connection. But it's on.
Who does the program? Who's the speaker? You?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to do it now. Talk to me about anything financial literacy. What is the one takeaway? By the way, I will definitely, if people want to comment, after this video is posted, or, message me, message you, I'll put your contact information for sure, because I think that whoever can jump in on any of these conversations, any of these in-depth discussions that you're planning on having, I totally would love people to do that. Even if they think they know everything, there's probably one thing in there that either inspires them to save a little more or spend differently. It's good stuff.
Absolutely.
What's one thing, one tip?
Sorry, go ahead. What were you say? One tip?
What's one tip for saving, spending, or investing, or budgeting? Anything that you think is important for all families to know?
Now, one tip that I would give, and I have so many tips, but one thing that I would give is to definitely save. And even if, my mom taught me that if you have $10, save $2, because you'd be surprised how much it adds up. And so no matter how small it is, put something away for the rainy day. And so one of the things that helped me, because I think it takes a lot of discipline. And so a tip that I would share is to have an auto deduction. So if you know that you won't be disciplined enough to say, okay, every week I'm going to put $20 aside, have it come out automatically, right? So have it be a paycheck deduction, or have it where you set it up through your online banking, or you have it set up through your bank where they take it automatically and they set it away in a savings account for you. That's one tip I would share. Another big tip would be to definitely live within your means. With social media and everything that you see out there, all the fancy things we see, you want to have it, right? But we can't have it all. So definitely live, within your means. That's key, but absolutely save no matter how small it is, because you'd be surprised to see how it adds up.
Yeah, definitely. And the adding up part is, I think it started 6 years ago or so. I started a giant spreadsheet of all of our expenses, everything from heating heating is electric, gas, car, everything, cable, phone. There's line items. I probably have 70 line items of just all of our minor expenses, the lawn cutting guys, everything. And it added up to a dollar figure that made my eyes go oh my God.
Yeah.
So writing things down and creating that Uber spreadsheet really gives you a picture, so you know what living within your means actually is, because you can't do that unless you see what you're spending on.
Right. So having that visual picture, writing down, I do that too. I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, I included vacations, clothing, food, ballpark numbers, but realistic ballpark numbers.
Yeah, and you know what?
Shocking.
It's all you have to do is make a start. So for example, in the next couple of years, my son is right, he's going to be driving. He's But a few years ago, I was thinking future, like, oh my gosh, the day's going to come where I'm going to need to buy him a car. And so what I did, I opened up a small savings account for him and I titled it car, right? And every week I have $20 going into that, and go calculating how many years have passed. Wow, you'd be surprised to see how much I've saved up in his little car account.
That's great. That is great. Are you going to make him pay for his own car insurance?
We'll see. Depends on how he does school.
Don't spoil him. You're going to take away all of the good things that you've learned from your past.
But maybe he'll pay half, maybe he'll pay most of it, right? Depends. Like I'll try to meet him halfway, right? But he also has to give something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, don't listen to me. I talk a good game, but we take a lot of financial responsibility for our kids' cars and insurance and everything. But it is a good lesson for the future. So what are the, when would these, what do you call them again? Discussion groups, lectures, seminars,
The workshops.
workshops?
Yeah.
When would these be starting?
So I think it really depends on, I'm flexible, right? So it depends on the audience and what really works for them. So for example, I'm working with a nonprofit organization and they want to do, because we have the 5 topics, the 5 courses, right? So they want to do the second Tuesday of every month. So that's just an example. And I said, sure, we could do the second Tuesday of every month. So it really depends on the person and what their availability is. We have the workshops ready to go. We have the tools, and we just want to, give back to the community. A lot of people are home, and we just want to see how can we help in these tough times. And especially now, now you really need to, because a lot of people lost jobs, a lot of people lost hours. So of course their paychecks decreased. So we just want to see how we can help, in these tough times.
Do these cost any money with, no? Would you consider doing the workshops, the series of workshops on One Take with Jess? We could set up separate, are these Zoom based? They are Zoom based, yes?
Zoom based.
I would love for you to do the series of workshops on here. We can divide it out, in separate shows where you would have the
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah. We're setting up the workshops, and anyone that we can educate and talk to about, breaking the cycle of paycheck. Maybe you're looking to buy your first home. Maybe you need help with budgeting. We're ready.
Good. Let's make that happen, you and me.
Sure. Yep.
I'm trying to think if there were any other questions, because I mean, you're super successful, and I just like sometimes learning the keys to your success or anything that held you back. Continued education. Are you constantly pursuing any continued education that the bank has, that TD Bank has for you?
Yes. And actually, I think
By the way, was
pre-COVID,
that your 13-year-old that just walked into the kitchen behind you?
I
Oh my
can't see my.
God, he is like a man.
You want to say hello? Huge. Say hi to Miss Jess.
What's up, buddy? Oh my God.
So we were talking about
The continued education, TD Bank, because you can't get comfortable where you're at. So are you continuing to leverage any of the opportunities in the bank?
Yes, absolutely. And at TD we have quite a few, leadership courses. I think when we spoke pre-COVID, I informed you that I was in this leadership program where I traveled to Canada. So I'm just always looking for opportunities to, expand my skills, expand my knowledge. So yes, definitely. And it's free, right? Right. So why not take advantage of everything that you can learn while you're with the company?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you hit on so many points, and I hope this definitely inspires people to just take opportunities by the throat and go with it. You're not going to get ushered in. You have to work for it. You have to work towards it. And you've been such an example of all of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Jess. That means a lot.
Well, are you off today? Is this what you normally wear when it's your day off, or is this special for me?
For you. I'm not completely off, but I remember that we attempted this when I was in the office and the signal was so poor. Lighting was off. So, I said, I am going to do this specifically for Jess. So you have me today.
Yay. Thank you so much. That was a good time. First you called like you hopped on and you were in your car. And then you called me from that back room where your phone was dying and there was no reception.
I went off after no motion. I said, I can't do this. So
That was so funny. You were in the dark. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, because when there's no motion, the sensor goes off. So I said, you know what? It's all about planning. So you let me know what day works. I can totally plan. I had that goes back to, having a team that just gets it done. You can't do everything, by yourself, but they hold it down when I'm not able to be there with them. And, I'm so proud of them.
That's perfect. Well, I personally learned a lot from you today, and I'm motivated to be a better self.
Thank you.
All right. I'll let you go about your day. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that this worked out for us.
Yes. And thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
I do want to
Happy
set
New
up the work. Oh, Happy New Year. Yes. 2021, right?
21. Cheers and stay well. And yes, we'll connect about the workshops and we'll definitely set something up.
Perfect. Okay.
Right?
Enjoy. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.